Hello, my name is Nell and I have things to say about disability, chronic illness and mental health. I live with all of these things in many different ways, and in my videos on my channel I talk about them, partly to reach out to other people who also live with these things and to let them know they are not doing this alone. There are other people who really do get it. But I also talk about these things to reach out to people who don't know what these battles are like and who don't understand why we are so damn tired all the time. And I hope that what I share might offer them a little bit of insight and understanding. If that sounds like something that interests you, I would love it if you would subscribe to this channel. Come back every Wednesday when I upload new videos. Let me know what you think of my videos in the comments section, and if you know of somebody else who would benefit from or enjoy one of my videos, please feel free to share it with them. Now, last week I uploaded a video about my negative experiences with Virgin Airlines and why I will not be flying with them again, or even trying to fly with them again, and why I don't recommend anyone with a disability flies with them. Now this week I want to talk about my experience with Qantas Airlines and why I will fly with them again, and why I do believe that they do take care of their disabled customers. Now, after my experience with Virgin Airlines, I was quite burned. I was quite burned and I was quite nervous. And this time I thought, okay, I need to absolutely make sure that I have all the information I need. So I called Qantas's special assistance line and I thought, I wonder if they have any possible way of telling me what the maximum weight limit is on a plane. Now Virgin told me that they couldn't know, that they had no way of knowing. I wonder if Qantas is the same. And when I had told Virgin that why didn't they have it on their website, she just didn't know. She just didn't know. So this time I called Qantas and I said, hey, I just had a bad experience. I tried booking and my wheelchair was too big, and now I'm seeing that the dimensions of this particular aircraft match my wheelchair, but is there any possible way of knowing what the weight limit is? And she said, okay, I can try to look it up. And I said, okay, it's not on the website. Why is it not on the website? And she explained that the weight limit is not necessarily dependent on the aircraft. It's an airport-based or airport-specific thing. It depends on the equipment that the airport has for lifting luggage into the aircraft. It depends on their lifts and their conveyor belt system. And she explained it in such a way, and I thought, oh, that makes perfect sense. Of course you couldn't have that as a general statement on a website of this aircraft can carry this weight, because it's different depending on each airport. At a more rural airport, they won't have the same lift systems as they will at a big city airport. So that made a lot of sense. And she said, okay, I'm going to call around and I'm going to find the weight limit for that particular aircraft and see if you would fit. So she called around and she got back to me within 20 minutes. And she said, okay, your wheelchair will fit. She not only said your wheelchair will fit, but I had said to her, the de Havilland Dash, I think it was the de Havilland Dash, seems to fit my wheelchair's dimensions, and I need to know if it would fit the weight. So when she phoned, she didn't just say, that plane will fit your wheelchair or your wheelchair will fit in that plane. She said, the de Havilland Dash will be able to fit your wheelchair being 175 kilos. She said it all out so that if there'd been any misunderstanding, any mixed messages when it came to the information that I had shared, I'd be able to say, wait a minute, I didn't say that, or wait a minute, that's incorrect. She made sure that every bit of information that we shared was the same, was correct. I appreciated it so much. Even when she had said to me, I'm going to call around and find this out, she said, if I don't call back within an hour, please call back. This is my name. Ask for me and make sure that they put you on to me. She was so intent on making sure that she would get this information back to me. It was a very, very good experience. So then I bought the tickets, and when I went through their special assistance forms, they were much more comprehensive. I've had to put in not just the dimensions of my wheelchair, but information about my wheelchair's battery, for some reason that made me feel more safe. I actually had to do more work to fill in this form than I had to for the forms at Virgin Airlines. I had to look up the manufacturer's details to figure out what kind of battery I had and how to turn the battery off. They seemed to be a lot more used to carrying power wheelchairs in particular, and had a lot more, a lot more systems in place for carrying them safely. They were asking more questions, and it showed me that they seem to be doing this a lot more. And then when I was calling somebody else about it, and I basically put the form in, and then because I had extra things to carry, I have a suitcase of medical supplies. I have a big tub of medications, and then I have a big selection of things for foot care. And I wanted to be able to take that in as extra luggage without having to pay for it. You're able to have basically a medical waiver for equipment that is medical and it's extra luggage, so you don't need to pay the surcharge. And so I called their special assistance line and said, look, I just filled in my form. I want to be able to carry this extra piece of luggage with medical supplies and an extra piece of luggage that has a back cushion that's compressed into a duffel bag. And the lady there said, well, it's a good thing you called because we have such an influx of special assistance lines. If you have complex needs like yours, it's much better to just call the line directly rather than filling in the form. So that was a great way of telling me how to do it better next time. They have a dedicated line where you are much more likely to get faster service through that line rather than their forms. So they were able to organize that and pass through all of the medical waivers for my extra equipment, so that I knew that once I got there, I wouldn't be paying an extra $100 for my medical equipment as well as my luggage. So once I actually got to the airport, they were able to look up my details, be able to look up my special assistance form, and were able to just stamp on my special assistance tags on all my luggage. They were very, very kind in making sure they didn't put me onto the plane until it was absolutely necessary, so that I didn't have to sit in the very uncomfortable aisle seat for longer than I needed to. They were very, very caring in keeping an eye on me, making sure I was comfortable, getting me straight out of the airplane as soon as they could, getting me straight back into my wheelchair as soon as they could. On the way back, there was a little bit of confusion about the luggage, because they said, oh, you've got extra luggage, we're going to have to charge you. And I said, no, it's all medical waiver. And they were able to look that up quickly. They passed it all through. And again, we had some flight delays coming back. And so they just waited. Instead of putting me on the aisle seat and waiting me there, they just stayed and waited and were just kept an eye on me constantly. I was flying back on my own because my partner couldn't come with me. And so they just kept checking in with me constantly, because one of the things that I'd flagged is that I have autism and anxiety. And so they were just checking in with me, explaining the process the entire time, and just really taking care of me and keeping communication lines open the entire time. It was just worlds away from my experience with Virgin Airlines. It was a lot smoother. It was such a relief to know that it happened, because honestly, when I went through the stuff with Virgin, I thought, am I even going to be able to fly anywhere? But absolutely, I would fly with Qantas again. 100%, I would fly with Qantas again. They were very good. Their systems, they have systems in place that tell you that they have been doing this before, and it's streamlined. It's trustworthy. I felt safe. I would definitely fly with Qantas again, and I would recommend flying with them. And that's this video. That's this video. It's like I'm just like telling my little personal stories. So that's all for this one. Thank you for watching. I'd love to hear your experiences about travel, about flying. If you've flown with either Virgin or Qantas or some other airline, who you would recommend, who you would warn people off of. I would really be interested in hearing your experiences. So please share that with me. Yeah, if your experiences are similar to mine, or maybe even the exact opposite. So please let me know. All right, that's all for this one. Bless.